Good morning and welcome to the 2013 hooding ceremony for doctoral candidates at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Leading us in the national anthem is Adam Mitchell, candidate for Bachelor of Music.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you for joining us today for this important event in the life of the university. The hooding ceremony honors graduate students who have completed doctoral training, an exceptional accomplishment that merits special recognition. These students are the future of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and their achievement today brings honor to our university. They are our future faculty, researchers, and public servants. They are our teachers, scientists, get out of here, business owners, inventors, writers, social workers, and leaders in many fields. Graduate students work diligently at the frontiers of knowledge, and their discoveries extend our collective understanding. Their research enhances the health and well-being of North Carolina's citizens, makes important contributions to the economy, and increases the richness of social and cultural life of our state. The benefits do not stop at North Carolina's boundaries, they extend around the world. Graduate students also teach and engage with the public, both vital contributions to Carolina's mission. Much of Carolina's research and education enterprise is powered by graduate research and teaching assistants working together with faculty mentors. Their contributions help make Carolina one of the preeminent research universities in the nation. Graduates, thank you and congratulations on reaching this important milestone. Joining us on the stage today are a number of distinguished people. First, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Philip Clay, Secretary of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill Board of Trustees.
Good morning. On behalf of Chairman Hargrove and my fellow trustees, I want to welcome you to this hooding ceremony for the doctoral class of 2012. I want to acknowledge my stage guests and the faculty, and I also want to acknowledge our speaker this morning, Professor Dan Ariely. Some of us are dressed colorfully. Some of us may even be cute in our color, but Dan is the only one here who has the authentic dress of the academic hood as it originated. As in other parts of the commencement celebration, our emphasis this morning is on beginnings and on honoring the empowering power of education. Today, the faculty invests you with the ceremonial hood that's symbolizing your membership in the academy, that select group of men and women who have earned the highest academic degrees. You have demonstrated the mastery of advanced knowledge, the capacity to contribute to that knowledge, and the ability to use the analysis to address the world's greatest problems. You will transition today from being students to becoming our colleagues and our future leaders. You should be proud of your achievements and those of your colleagues, and I know that your family, professors, mentors, and friends are delighted for the efforts that you have made. I encourage you to remember and hold dear your association with this great university. While the Academy is an abstraction, this special place in Chapel Hill is not. The university has invested heavily in helping you reach this point in your life because we believe that you are worthy and that over the course of your career you will do us proud with the contributions you will make and the services you will render. The university, this academy, is precious. Protect it, defend it, support it. I offer 3 words I hope you will take with you today. The first is integrity. Integrity might be said, should go without saying. It is the quality of being honest and having a strong moral compass. Integrity is the foundation of the academy and of the professions. You will rely on it from your colleagues, and the public will rely on it from you. The second word is audacity. By audacity, I mean the willingness to take bold risks, acting with both intelligence and confidence. You have prepared to take on the great problems, whether they be puzzles or mysteries. The ambiguities of nature and of our culture will be your work. You can and must dive deeply and explore the issues and to bring answers to us that will address aging and cancer and energy and peace and justice, faith, and so forth. These are hard problems, and they are great challenges. You should embrace them because they are hard and you are prepared, and because they are important. Their solution requires your intelligence. We are counting on you to take on the big challenges and achieve breakthroughs and solutions. But it is important that you be most modest and humble, knowing that insights come from many sources and diverse inputs and not just from you. If this sounds like what might have been said last year or 100 years ago, you're correct. But there is a special urgency today. We live in a flat world. Talent is the coin of the realm. The God of nature scattered talent all over humanity, and we're beginning to see it emerge all over the world. More and more places are using their talent and tapping on the strengths of their people. America and Western Europe are no longer the only places with lots of smart people doing clever things. Good ideas can emerge and do emerge around the world. If America is to remain great, if North Carolina is to prosper, and if we are to achieve our national goals, it will be because we have developed and marshaled our talent to be competitive worldwide. Our dominance in science and technology is no longer secure. You are members of our team that will keep us competitive. If our future is to be secure, it will be because you make it so. We need your intelligence and your audacity. So to my third word, service. Embracing the challenge that I've laid out is not a value-neutral phenomenon. We urge you to use your talent out of a motivation for service. Nothing will be more important than your helping the public understand the value of science and the complexities and importance of the work you're doing on a daily basis. Their understanding, engagement, and trust in you will be critical to your work having impact. It will not be helpful for you to be in an ivory tower, even though some of you will shortly show up in ivory towers around the world. Ivory towers are no longer secure. Engaging the public and valuing your work will be a most important contribution. That's what it's all about. So I wish you the best. Congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you, Phil. I would like to introduce other members of the platform party. Distinguished members of our faculty present today include Joseph Farrell, Professor and Secretary of the Faculty, Jan Boxell, Professor of Philosophy, Director of the Parr Center for Ethics and Chair of the Faculty, and David Fennick, Royster Professor of Graduate Education. In a few minutes, Registrar Chris Derrickson will help me hand out diplomas, and Provost Bruce Carney will help with the hooding process. Let's recognize these members of the platform party. It is now my pleasure to introduce Steve Matson, Dean of the Graduate School.
Thank you, Chancellor Thorpe. For close to 150 years, the University of North Carolina has been engaged in graduate training, preparing our future scientists, teachers, healthcare professionals, business leaders, and public servants. As Dr. Clay has said, today you transition from being students to becoming our colleagues. Your work here has advanced the university's mission. Now, as our future leaders, we're counting on you to continue that work and to take on the big challenges. Whether your goal is to conduct groundbreaking research, to teach, or to provide earnest public leadership, we know you will share with others what you've learned here. As you go out into the world, carry Carolina's standard of excellence with you. I would like to recognize the many diverse disciplines that are represented in this ceremony. The graduate school now oversees more than 80 programs with breadth and depth of doctoral degrees, from American studies to psychology, from biochemistry to public policy. Today, graduates and faculty from these diverse disciplines come together to share in the joy and pride of the Ph.D.s being conferred on this group of students. At this time, I would like to introduce Michael Bertucci, outgoing president of the Graduate and Professional Student Federation.
Good morning, everybody. It's my honor to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Dan Ariely. Dr. Ariely received his bachelor's degree in psychology from Tel Aviv University and his master's degree and doctorate in cognitive psychology from UNC-Chapel Hill. He went on to receive a second doctorate in business administration from Duke University. He is the James B. Duke Professor of Psychology and Behavioral Economics at Duke, where his academic affiliations span business, cognitive neuroscience, economics, and medicine. Dr. Ariely is known throughout the world for research that explains psychological processes determining day-to-day human decisions. One of the ways he communicates the possible implications of this human behavior is through compelling books. All three are New York Times bestsellers, and their titles are Predictably Irrational: The Hidden Forces That Shape Our Decisions, The Upside of Irrationality: The Unexpected Benefits of Defying Logic at Work and at Home, and his most recent work titled The Honest Truth About Dishonesty: How We Lie to Everyone, Especially Ourselves. Dr. Ariely is the founding member of the Center for Advanced Hindsight, based at Duke, where his research topics are as diverse as wealth distribution, dating behavior, healthcare, and consumer decisions. We are delighted and honored and excited to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dan Ariely as this year's hooding ceremony keynote speaker. May the force be with you.
Greetings. I want to talk today about the dark side of human nature. I want to talk today a little bit about self-control. Self-control is about the fact that we sometimes know what's good for us in the long term, but we fail to act on it. So think to yourself for a second. How many of you in the last month have eaten more than you wished you would? In the last month, how many of you have gotten less exercise than you wish you would? For how many of you raising your hand has been the most amount of exercise you got? How many of you have ever texted while driving? Come on. Now, of course, you know this is incredibly stupid, right? Nobody ever said, you know, I thought about it. I thought about how much I want to stay alive, how much I don't want to kill other people. How important is this text message right now? And I decided that this was worth it. No, we know this is a mistake, but when the moment comes and the phone vibrates or calls, we feel the urge to answer it. And last question, how many of you have ever had unplanned, unprotected sex? Nobody. That's amazing. We could talk about lying another time. So what is it about self-control? Here's a very general way to think about it. Imagine I gave you a choice, and I said, what would you rather have? A half a box of chocolate right now, or a full box of chocolate in a week? Half an hour or full in a week, and I passed the chocolate around so you could see it, you could smell it. It was this close. Under those conditions, how many of you would wait another week to get a slightly bigger box of chocolate? Maybe a few. I'm willing to bet that if the chocolate was actually passing around, there would be fewer of you that would do it. But imagine that we push the choices to the future. And he said, what would you rather have? A half a box of chocolate in a year, or a full box of chocolate in a year and a week? Now, how many of you would wait another week for another half a box of chocolate? I'm guessing everybody. Why? Because in the future, we are wonderful people. We will exercise, we will diet, everything will be fantastic in the future. Of course, we never get to live in that future. We get to live in the present, and in the present, we make mistake after mistake after mistake. So this is the problem of self-control, and now the question is, what can we do about it? And I want to kind of propose two mechanisms. The first one was inspired by my own experience. When I was in grad school here, I was diagnosed with a liver disease. When I was in hospital many years ago in Israel, I got a bad blood transfusion and I got a liver disease, and for many years I didn't know what it was. And from time to time I had a flare-up and my liver didn't function very well. And in my last 2 years of grad school, I had another one of those flare-ups. I checked myself into the hospital, and they told me I had hepatitis C. By that time, they could diagnose the problem. And they asked me whether I want to go on an FDA trial for a medication called interferon. Interferon was a medication that was originally approved for hairy cell leukemia, and they were trying to figure out whether it would prove to cure hepatitis C. And I said, what happens if I don't take this medication? And they described to me what it feels like to die from liver cirrhosis. So I didn't think about it for very long. I took the medications. The problem was that these injections were incredibly unpleasant. Every time I took the medication, I got sick for the whole night. Vomiting, headache, fever, shaking, stuff like that. Not as bad as dying from liver cirrhosis, but for sure and now. And think about this trade-off. Taking a medication now that would make me incredibly sick for something that might cure me in 30 years. I took these medications 3 times a week for a year and a half. And at the end of this period, I had another liver biopsy. I beat the disease. That was good news. The FDA later approved interferon. That was also good news. But my physician told me I was the only patient in the protocol that took the medication on time. And the question is, how come? Do I like my liver more? Do I don't have self-control? The answer is none of those. The answer is that I love movies. If I had time, I would watch lots and lots of movies. Sadly, I don't have much time, so I don't watch many movies. But on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which were injection days, I made a deal with myself. I would, first thing in the morning, go and rent a few videos I really wanted to watch. I would carry them in my backpack the whole day, looking forward to watching them. I would come home, I would put the video in, I would inject myself, and I would press play. I did not wait for the side effects to start. I connected something I did not want, the injection, with something I wanted, the video. And we call this principle reward substitution. And the idea is that there are many things in life that we are just not designed to care about. We're just not designed to care about anything that would happen 30 years from now. But my trick, reward substitution, got me to care about something else, movies. Not that important. You know, if you made a list of what's important in life, livers will be high up there. Movies, not so much. But the problem with the liver is the effect on the liver will be 30 years from now. So by caring about the movies immediately, I behaved as if I cared about my liver. And this is the idea of reward substitution, is to recognize that if we don't care about something that would happen long in the future, maybe we could create a more proximal goal, something that is closer in time, and by acting toward this goal, we can act as if we care about other goals. So let's just think about two such problems. The first one is global warming. Think to yourself whether people can care about global warming. The answer is most certainly no. You know, if you think about it the other way and you say, let's search the whole world for the one problem that would maximize human apathy, you would come up with global warming. Long in the future, would happen to other people first. We don't see it progressing. We don't see anybody suffering. And anything we would do as individuals is a drop in the bucket. Can people wake up and care and say, today I'm going to do something? Very, very unlikely. But can we create reward substitution? Can we give people other rewards that through them they would behave as if they care about the environment? I think the Prius is a wonderful example for that. Right? My non-scientific observation is that people who drive Priuses smile more than other people. Here they are, they're driving their hybrid, and they get to think of themselves that they are wonderful, kind human beings, and that everybody else recognizes that. What would happen if we tried to get other people to recognize the temperature we set our thermostat, or how much insulation we get in the attic? Lots of things like that. Let's take one more example. There's a medication called Coumadin. Coumadin is an anti-stroke medication. It's a relatively good anti-stroke medication. It reduces chances of a second stroke from about 24% to about 4%. And with those odds, you would think that people who had a stroke would really want to take Coumadin on time, but compliance rate is not so high. So let's think about reward substitution. For reward substitution, we need two things. We need to measure, and then we need to either reward or punish. How do we measure whether people take the medication on time? There's a new device called internet-enabled pill boxes. These are pill boxes that every time somebody opens them and takes their pill, it registers online. So now think of yourself, what are the possibilities to reward or punish people once we know that they're taking the medication? So think about some suggestion. What would you try, right? What kind of things you could try? So you could say, let's post it on Facebook. Let's send a letter to their mothers. Let's lock the refrigerator, shut down the internet. I mean, there's lots of things we could try and do to basically give people immediate reward for taking the medication on time. Here's some things that we and some other of our colleagues have tried. The first thing we tried was we said, what if we paid people $3 a day to take their medication on time? What do you think happens? Absolutely nothing. What do you think would happen if we paid people $1,000 a day to take the medication on time? I'm guessing that will work. You know, we didn't test it for obvious reasons. We don't have $1,000. Even if it might work, it's not a reasonable solution. So the next thing we tried was to use a principle called loss aversion. Loss aversion is the idea that people hate losing much more than they enjoy gaining. So we said, what if we charge people $3 every time they don't take their medication? Turns out that's much better. But the nicest solution came up from combining two things. The first thing was combining lotteries. Lotteries is a very strange thing. Economists call lottery a taxation on stupidity, but people love lotteries. So what do you think happens if you give people, every time they take the medication on time, a lottery ticket that gives them 10% chance of making $30? Turns out that's much better. But the nicest combination was to combine lotteries with regret. Now, what is regret? Regret is a really interesting human emotion. Regret is about the fact that our happiness is not driven by where we are, it's driven by where we are compared to something else that we can imagine vividly. And if this other reality we can imagine vividly is better, we feel miserable. And if this other reality we can imagine is worse, we feel good about ourselves. So for example, when would you be more upset? If you missed your flight by 2 minutes or by 2 hours? By 2 minutes. Why? Because you can imagine the many ways in which you would have made it. You could say, if the light changed a little faster, if the person in line in front of me understood what taking your shoes off means, if the TSA agent had one more IQ point, and you can basically think about this other alternative reality, and because it's so close, you compare yourself to this other reality and you feel bad. If you missed your flight by 2 hours, you can't imagine that reality. Similarly, a few Olympics ago, they took pictures of people who won medals, and they looked at how big were their smiles. And what would you expect? Gold, silver, bronze. What did they find? Gold, bronze, silver. Why? Imagine you trained for the last 4 years, and a minute and a half ago you got the silver medal. What are you thinking to yourself? This close. This close. And if you got the bronze, what are you thinking? At least I'm here, look at everybody else. So our happiness is often driven not by where we are, but what we compare ourselves to. How do you incorporate this into our experiment? So imagine all of you are on Coumadin, people on my right are taking the medication on time, people on my left are not. If we just do the lottery, I sample 10% of you and give you the lottery ticket. If I try to incorporate regret, I give the lottery ticket to everybody, whether you took the medication or not. And I call you up and I say, congratulations, you're the winner of the coveted lottery. The stars are smiling on you. Sadly, I see you did not take your pill today, so you're not getting the money. This is the essence of regret. Now you can think about a small act that you could have done that would have put you on the other side of that fence. And together, lottery and regret get compliance on Coumadin to be about 98%. So the sad news is that we have a lot of challenges with self-control. The good news is that we could do something about it. If we understand reward substitution and we understand how to re-incentivize people to do things in our long-term best interest by short-term incentives, we can actually get behavior to be better. I do want to point out to one more mechanism. This is a mechanism called Ulysses' contracts. If you remember from the mythology, Ulysses knew that if the sirens will come, he will be tempted. So he asked the sailors to tie him to the mast, and he asked the sailors to put wax in their ears. And this way he could not act on his temptation, and the sailors could not be tempted. In modern days, it's as if Ulysses took his cell phone and put it in the trunk, so he could hear the call of the cell phone, but couldn't act on it. And for the sailor, it was as if he turned the phone off. There's lots of mechanisms like that, and you can think about all kinds of behaviors that you probably do that have this taste. For example, what happens if you don't buy cake? You can think to yourself, let me buy cake, I'll bring it home, and I'll eat a small piece every other day. Very unlikely. You probably recognize that if you'll have a big cake at home, you'll probably eat too much of it, so you choose to reduce temptation from the get-go. One of the students that worked in the Media Lab when I was there did a very nice alarm clock. This is an alarm clock called Clocky. And Clocky is an alarm clock with two big wheels that run in slightly different speeds. When you go to sleep, you think to yourself that you're the kind of person that wakes up at 6 in the morning and goes for a run. So you set up your alarm clock to go off at 6. And then 6 o'clock in the morning comes around and you are no longer that person. You're a different person with a different set of preferences, and you look for the snooze button, but if you have Clocky is now running around the room. And Clocky is running around the room in an unpredictable way, and you have to get up and you have to hunt it down. Goes under furniture. By the time you find it, you're awake. The fatal design flaw of the first version of Clocky, by the way, is that by the time people found it, they were also pissed off. So there's lots of Clockies with the wheels torn off. So now there's a new design that is egg-like, that doesn't have any parts that you can break. And I think the next design would actually fight back. There's an even better version called Snooze and Lose. Snooze and Lose is an alarm clock that is connected to your checking account. And to a charity you hate. Right? Now try and snooze. We did it in one other way. It turns out in the history of the world, nobody ever woke up and said, "Today I feel like colonoscopy." It's funnier if you're a parent at that age. So what happened when people wake up and it's a day for colonoscopy? They find other things to do that are more urgent. So we asked people, when we scheduled for them a colonoscopy, we said, "Would you give us a check for $500? And if you show up to your colonoscopy on time, we'll give you the money back. But if you're late or you miss the appointment, you lose the money." This is the kind of a promise that people can only either get the same or lose money. There's nothing to gain aside from self-control. And more than 50% of the people are willing to accept that deal, give us the check, and try to get their self-control under control. There was a very sad analysis that looked at the percentage of human mortality that is caused by bad decision-making. And when you try to estimate what percentage of human mortality was aided or caused by bad decision-making 100 years ago, it was about 10%. When you try to look at the same percent now, it's slightly more than 40. How come? As we invent new technologies, we also invent ways to kill ourselves. Obesity, diabetes, smoking, texting while driving. All of those decisions, it's not that a single decision kills us, but a long sequence of bad decisions could be incredibly harmful. And if you think about this perspective, this is all about self-control, and it also tells us that the self-control problems are only going to get worse. Think about it. The commercial world around us is only interested in us giving them time, money, and attention right now. Right? Donuts. The next version of the donut 2.0, is it going to be more or less tempting? More tempting. Is the next version of Facebook going to be more or less tempting? Is the next version of the smartphone going to be more or less tempting? The reality is that the commercial world around us is trying to tempt us all the time to spend our time, money, energy, and so on, and we need to figure out ways to fight back. So self-control problems, or problems of Adam and Eve and temptation, are with us, they are substantial, are large, and we need to figure out how to fight them. Beyond that, self-control is just one example of a human folly. It's just one example of a problem we have. And as fellow academics, you are in charge of designing the next version of the world. Think about it. Everything we have, starting from healthcare policy to physical products to food to regulations, all of those are things that we are designing, man-made, and you're going to take part in this design. And the question is, what kind of future are you going to design? What kind of environment are you going to design for people to take actions in? And I know that you're going to design things that are compatible with human limitations. We have a choice. Are we designing things for human beings so we can make better decisions, or are we designing things for people to make worse decisions? And in advance, I know that you'll take the right path, and I want to thank you in advance for helping us design a better future, and may the force be with you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariely. Now I ask the first row of doctoral candidates to please come forward as directed by the marshals. As we prepare to recognize our graduates, I would like to take a moment to explain the significance of the commencement hood. The hooding ceremony is derived from medieval traditions. In the 12th and 13th centuries, when universities were taking form, they were under the jurisdiction of the church, and those studying wore a habit or cloak to which was attached a cowl or a hood. The hood seems to have had three uses: a covering, a shoulder cape, or a bag for collecting alms. Many of us have heard a story, whether it's true or not, of the small cup formed at the back of the hood by the folds of the cloth being used as a receptacle for coins offered by grateful students after a particularly inspiring lecture by their teacher. The colors on the hood symbolize school and broad discipline. The presentation of the hood by the student's mentor symbolizes the welcoming of the graduate as a full-fledged member of the community of scholars. As I call the name of each doctoral candidate and his or her advisor, I ask that the student and advisor proceed onto the stage. At this point, the advisor and provost, Carney, will ceremoniously place the hood on the student. The student and advisor will then proceed to the farthest end of the stage to receive congratulations from Chancellor Thorpe. If the student's advisor is not present, Provost Carney will present the hood. I want to call your attention to those students who are wearing gold cords. These students are members of the Royster Society of Fellows, the graduate school's most prestigious graduate fellowship program. There is a professional photographer at the foot of the stage who will be taking photos of each graduate. We encourage family members and friends to take photos after the ceremony is completed. Kanying Wu, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by the provost. Zhao Chen, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by James Baer, being hooded by the provost. Christopher J. McKenna, English, being hooded by Timothy Marr. Christine Gomes Campos, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Peggy Cotter. Brandy Marie Metchling, Nursing, being hooded by Linda S. Bieber. Huaiping Li, Computer Science, being hooded by Ming Lin. Elizabeth Serix Evans, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Claudio L. Battaglini. Arnita Ford Norwood, Nutrition, being hooded by Carmen Samuel Hodge. Lee Frank Langer, Neurobiology, being hooded by Kathleen Sulik. Jason E. Streeter, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Paul A. Dayton. Ryan Christopher Gessner, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Paul A. Dayton. Yanchao Li, Chemistry, being hooded by Sergei Sheko. Michael B. Smith, History, being hooded by W. Miles Fletcher. Jing Hu, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by the Provost. Kayla Sue Bloom, Chemistry, being hooded by the Provost. Stephen Patterson Goldberger, Economics, being hooded by David Gilkey. Matthew Christopher Harris, Economics, being hooded by Donna Gillespie. Gregory Michael McAtee, Economics, being hooded by Donna Gillespie. Jamie Lamont Lathan, Education, being hooded by Cheryl Mason Bolick. Helen Crompton, Education, being hooded by Cheryl Bolick. Christine Elizabeth Hodgin, Chemistry, being hooded by Kevin Weeks. Alex Monroe Ingersoll, Communication Studies, being hooded by Ken Hillis. Jessica E. Speed, Communication Studies, being hooded by Steve May and Madeline Grumet. Carrie Dean Gillenwater, Education, being hooded by Madeline Grumet. Catherine Elizabeth Coggins, Political Science, being hooded by James Stimson. Emily Anna Oblith, Chemistry, being hooded by Linda Stone. Angela Proctor, Chemistry, being hooded by Nancy Albritton. Vicki Michelle Richardson, Toxicology, being hooded by Michael DeVito. Megan Free, Pathology, being hooded by Maureen Sue. Heather Ann Fritz, Occupational Science, being hooded by Brian Boyd. Kendra Sue Heatwall Shank, Occupational Science, being hooded by Malcolm Cutchin. Andrea Lynn Heckert, Health Behavior, being hooded by Eugenia Eng. Derek Matthews, Health Behavior, being hooded by Wisdom Powell Hammond. Lisa Parker, Health Behavior, being hooded by Suzanne Mammon. Lori A. Abler, Health Behavior, being hooded by Suzanne Mammon. Stephanie Lynette Baker, Health Behavior, being hooded by Susan T. Enid. Susan Wallace Hawes, Health Behavior, being hooded by Susan Enid. Jennifer Lynn History, being hooded by Karen Hegemon. Nora Doyle, History, being hooded by Jacqueline Hall. Patrick Seamus Finnerty, being hooded by Rago Henning. David Andrew Eby, Physics and Astronomy, being hooded by Jack Ng. Adam Kelleher, Physics and Astronomy, being hooded by Chris Clemens. Kevin Joseph Ludwig, Physics and Astronomy, being hooded by Chris Clemens. Delia Nicole Acevedo, Political Science, being hooded by Pamela Johnston Conover. Sandra Chapman Osterkatz, Political Science, being hooded by Eveline Huber. Mary Layton Atkinson, Political Science, being hooded by Frank Baumgartner. Jonathan Hancock, History, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Bonnie Adorno Lucero, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Dio Cavaleteros, being hooded by Morris Weinberger, Health Policy and Management. Alice Kirkland Fortune Greeley, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Morris Weinberger. Leah Lee Zulig, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Morris Weinberger. Lauren Cameron English, being hooded by Beverly Taylor. Gregory Joseph Boyer, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Jonathan Okendahl. Stephen Michael Gaddis, Sociology, being hooded by Carolyn Tyson and Doug Lown. Sarah K. Becker, Anthropology, being hooded by Dale Hutchinson. Jennifer Elise Ringberg, Anthropology, being hooded by Dale Hutchinson. Nezahat Aslam Aret, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Jack Griffith. Jessica Klusik, Speech and Hearing Sciences, being hooded by Molly Losh. Christopher Darrell Cameron, Psychology, being hooded by Keith Payne. Joseph John Pine Simons, Psychology, being hooded by Melanie Green. Elizabeth C. Robinson, Classics, being hooded by Richard J.A. Talbert. Britton White Newman, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Rosa Perelmuter. Esther Sanchez Cuoto, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Oswaldo Estrada. Jean Alongi, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Suzanne Havala Hobbs. Kelly Nicole Wiedenbach, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Suzanne Havala Hobbs. Jacqueline Ellis, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Leslie Lang. Supawati Narangroj, Epidemiology, being hooded by Victor Day Schoenbach. Sarah Elizabeth Council, Oral Biology, being hooded by Marcia Hobbs. Adambaraje R. de Alwis, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Marcia Hobbs. Kimberly Lynn Hurd Geisler, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by G. Mark Holmes. Ashley M. Krantz, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by R. Gary Rozier. David Cooper Phillips, Comparative Literature, being hooded by the Provost. William Taylor, Comparative Literature, being hooded by the Provost. Dana Falkenberg, Philosophy, being hooded by Ryan Preston Rader. Yuisha Song, Philosophy, being hooded by Ryan Preston Rader. Amber Michelle Ross, Philosophy, being hooded by Mark Lang. Patrick James Connolly, Philosophy, being hooded by Alan Nelson. Brenda Courtney Balletti, Geography, being hooded by Wendy Wolford. Holly M. Worthen, Geography, being hooded by Wendy Wolford. Samantha Jean Snow, Toxicology, being hooded by Alyssa Wolberg. Eugene A. Gibbs Flournoy, Toxicology, being hooded by James M. Samet. Christina Margaret Perez, Toxicology, being hooded by Amin K. Faraj, Daniel L. Costa. Alex Carl, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Daniel L. Costa and Amin K. Faraj. Shannon Zenia Jones, Toxicology, being hooded by Marilla Cordero Stone. Jenna Marie Courier, Toxicology, being hooded by Miroslav Styblo. Swanava Mukhopadre, Mathematics, being hooded by Prakash Bakala. Daniel David Orr, Mathematics, being hooded by Sharon Kumar. Joel Pereira, Mathematics, being hooded by James Damon. Rebecca Eileen Glover, Mathematics, being hooded by Justin Son. Ryan Lee Kalazewski, Mathematics, being hooded by Justin Son. Rachel Louise Bayless, Mathematics, being hooded by Jane Hawkins. Joanna Marie Furno, Mathematics, being hooded by Jane Hawkins. Theresa Marie Forshey, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Oleg Favorov. Brian William Miller, Ecology, being hooded by Paul W. Leslie. Derek Allen Rodriguez, Information and Library Science, being hooded by Helen Thibault. Sharika Nicole Hill, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Jonathan Koch. Jessica Tesha Mead, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by James Porto. Juan Liu, Chemistry, being hooded by Mark Shanefish. Alexis Wells Carpenter, Chemistry, being hooded by Mark Shanefish. Scott Philip Nichols, Chemistry, being hooded by Mark Shanefish. Nyeka Emenyonu, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Sandra Green. Jennifer Lee Platt, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Sandra Green. Kathleen Ann Caney, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Sandra Green. Lisa Marlene Coonan, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Reginald Alvin Silver, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Ned Brooks. Jennifer Olson, Public Health Leadership, being hooded by Tom Ricketts. Bradford Jackson Walston, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Kathleen Brown. Colin Kelly Batten Jr., Educational Leadership, being hooded by Kathleen Brown. Matthew Thomas Proto, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Kathleen Brown. David Lawrence Millman, Computer Science, being hooded by Jack Snowing. Ryan Felix, Chemistry, being hooded by Michael Gagne. Nikki A. Cochran, Chemistry, being hooded by Michael Gagne. Joseph Gregory Sokol, Chemistry, being hooded by Michael Gagne. Marta Sanchez, Education, being hooded by George Noblet. Billy N. Rhodes, Education, being hooded by George Noblet. Cassandra Richards Davis, Education, being hooded by George Noblet. Catherine P. Cole, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Jeff Sikelski. Michael A. Hussey, Biostatistics, being hooded by Gary Cook. Sarah Taves Whitley, Neurobiology, being hooded by Ken McCarthy. Suzanne Kurtzer-Minton, Pharmacology, being hooded by Ken McCarthy. Corliss Sharon Brown, Education, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier. Jennifer Jones Gorham, Education, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier. Scott Allen Morrison, Education, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier. David Shane Lowry, Anthropology, being hooded by James Peacock. Richard Clay Stewart, Anthropology, being hooded by James Peacock. Roshana R. Umashankar, Anthropology, being hooded by James Peacock. Randolph Maury Brown, History, being hooded by John Sweet. Gretchen Marie Spro, Psychology, being hooded by Todd E. Thiel. Arthur Gibb III, Political Science, being hooded by Mark Crescenzi. Rebecca Best, Political Science, being hooded by Mark Crescenzi. Matthew J. Cooper, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Lee Graves. Rahul Raghuram, Computer Science, being hooded by Jan Michael Fromm. Ki-Hoon Kim, Geological Sciences, being hooded by Jonathan M. Leese. Joel Hudley, Geological Sciences, being hooded by Donna Surge. Anne Michelle Blankenship, Religious Studies, being hooded by Lori Maffley Kipp. Janet Michelle Doolittle, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology, being hooded by Sean Gomez. Card. Sangwon Kim, Business Administration, being hooded by the Provost. Heather Marie Wasser, Nutrition, being hooded by Peggy E. Bentley. Heather Ann Peich, Nutrition, being hooded by Melinda A. Beck. Dory Marie Steinberg, Nutrition, being hooded by the Provost. Go ahead. Carmina Grace Valley, Nutrition, being hooded by Deborah F. Tate. Carly Yates Kincaid, Psychology, being hooded by Deborah J. Jones. Elizabeth Ann Schreiber-Byers, Germanic Languages, being hooded by Richard Langston. Ja Lee, Neurobiology, being hooded by Thomas Cash. Jian Chen, Statistics and Operational Research, being hooded by Amarjit Buharaja. Naomi Graber, Musicology, being hooded by Tim Carter. Timothy D. Miller, Musicology, being hooded by Mark Katz. Jaehoon Kang, Nursing, being hooded by the Provost. Eva Craig Phillips, Education, Curriculum, and Instruction, being hooded by Dr. Barbara Day. Sarah Catherine Hanna, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Bob Duronio. Whitney E. Hevner, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Dr. Bob Duronio. Pamela Rose Hesker, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Greg Matera. Kavita Praveen, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Greg Matera. Chris Ford, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Richard Superfine. Milton Jerome Carpenter, Materials Science, being hooded by Richard Superfine. Megan Joseph Freeman, Psychology, being hooded by Eric A. Youngstrom. Seth M. Martin, English, being hooded by George Lensing. Aaron Bartels Buller, English, being hooded by George Lensing. Kimberly Marston, Biology, being hooded by Stephen Rogers. Andrew Daniel Stevens, Biology, being hooded by Carrie Bloom. Aaron Romes, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Kevin Slepp. Robert B. Irvin, Psychology, being hooded by Joe Lohman. Jasmine Ty Irvin, Psychology, being hooded by Donald H. Baucom. Amy Lynn McCleary, Geography, being hooded by Stephen Walsh. Ashley R. Ward, Geography, being hooded by Stephen Birdsell. Daniel Arthur Canos, Epidemiology, being hooded by Wayne Rosamond. Patricia Cosbus Hernandez, Pathology, being hooded by Melissa A. Trotster. Stephanie E. Watkins, Epidemiology, being hooded by Julie Daniels. Jeanette A. Stingon, Epidemiology, being hooded by Andrew Olshan. Anna Barbara Wiss, epidemiology, being hooded by Andrew Olshan. Dorothy Leanne Long, biostatistics, being hooded by Amy H. Herring. Matthew W. Wheeler, biostatistics, being hooded by Amy Herring. Dustin M. Long, biostatistics, being hooded by Michael G. Hudgens. Wesley C. Ingram, marine sciences, being hooded by Stephen R. Myers. Courtney Stanton Endres, biology, being hooded by Kenneth Lohman. Samantha Lynn Hoopes, cell and molecular physiology, being hooded by Kathleen Caron. Louv Coley, computer science, being hooded by Fred Brooks. Kyun Jin Lim, business administration, being hooded by Sridhar Balasubramanian. Michael Jahong Park, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by John E. Paul. Rachel Huxford Phillips, Chemistry, being hooded by the Provost. Catherine Joy Vladutu, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Marshall. Ashley Land Shanefish, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Marshall. Christina Marie Ludima, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Cole. Jesse Edwards, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Cole. Katie M. O'Brien, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Cole. Jiting, Epidemiology, being hooded by Jennifer S. Smith. Lauren Elizabeth McCullough, Epidemiology, being hooded by Marily Gammon. Janie Chavone Smith, Epidemiology, being hooded by Marily D. Gammon. Claire Marks Gibson, Psychology, being hooded by David L. Penn. Benjamin G. Sammons, English, being hooded by Rebecca Rutledge Fisher. Michael J. Rulon, Comparative Literature, being hooded by Rebecca Rutledge Fisher. Rebecca Elise Balter, Neurobiology, being hooded by Linda Dykstra. Vanessa Rebus, Sociology, being hooded by Jacqueline Hagan. Adrian L. Green, English, being hooded by Philip Gura. Jansi Luo, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Serhan Zia. Alex F. Mills, Statistics and Operation Research, being hooded by Nile Tanik Argon and Serhan Zia. Chao Deng, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Nile Tanik Argon. Derek DeMond Jordan, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Fenwick W. English. Mia F. Murphy, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Fenwick English. Jerry Wayne Buckner, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Dr. Fenwick English. Carolyn Harbor Horn, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Fenwick English. Rishi Desai, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Joel F. Farley. Aaron J. Katz, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Joel F. Farley. Amika Simmons Yon, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Dr. Roy Hawk. Jasmine Alicia Talamay, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Herb Patterson. Jiawen Su, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Klaus M. Hahn. Wei Sun, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Qixing Zhang. Hannah C. Gustafson, Psychology, being hooded by Martha J. Cox. Ruth Baldessaro, Psychology, being hooded by Steve Resnick. Antoinette Sabatino, Psychology, being hooded by Stephen Resnick. Patrick Gerard Tobin, History, being hooded by Christopher Browning. Richards Olafs Plavnieks, History, being hooded by Christopher R. Browning. Michael V. Paluskas, History, being hooded by Christopher Browning. Shalini Minocha, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Russell J. Mumper. Chester Lee Costalis, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Dhiren Thacker. Jianjiang Han, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Dhiren Thacker. Christina Soyun Won, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Mary F. Payne. Scott Joseph Brantley, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Mary F. Payne. Caroline Bliss Edelman, Psychology, being hooded by Mitch Prinstein. John DuPont Gary, Psychology, being hooded by Mitchell J. Prinstein. Joseph Chad Franklin, Psychology, being hooded by Mitchell Prinstein. Diana Marie Rancourt, Psychology, being hooded by Mitch Prinstein. Emily Marie Brewer, English, being hooded by Jean Moscow. Heather Brandstetter, English, being hooded by Jane Danilowitz. Catherine I. Shreves, English, being hooded by Megan Machinsky. Samantha Michelle Riley, Comparative Literature, being hooded by Jessica Wolf. Kathleen Robin Curtin, English, being hooded by Reed Barber. Evan A. Gurney, English, being hooded by Reed Barber. Joseph S. Wallace, English, being hooded by Reed Barber. Elizabeth Pempe Chappelle, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Jian Lu. Kristen Feldman Holly, Public Policy, being hooded by Daniel Gitterman. Kevin C. Bastian, Public Policy, being hooded by Gary T. Henry. Jane Marcus Jenkins, Public Policy, being hooded by Gary Henry. Roderick A. Rose, Public Policy, being hooded by Gary Henry. Martha Friedemann Skiles, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Sean Curtis. Winfred K. Luceno, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Kavita Singh Ogichi. David C. Anderson Wiltshire, Classics, being hooded by James O'Hara. Audra P. Bott, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by William Goldman. Yingxuan Lin, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Jason Surratt. Jennifer Gentry Shields, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Jill Stewart. Kelly L. Bazio, English, being hooded by Jane Threlkill. Jennifer Neal McDonald, English, being hooded by Jane Threlkill. Graham Culbertson, English, being hooded by John McGowan and Jane Threlkill. Dinara Bayazitova, Business Administration, being hooded by the Provost. Aaron D. Shackelford, English, being hooded by Eliza Richards. Alyssa Mara Zellinger, English, being hooded by Eliza Richards. Danielle Ryan Cook, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Channing Durr. Timothy Dean Martin, Pharmacology, being hooded by Channing Durr. Jinhong Ha, Mass Communication, being hooded by Lois Boynton. Jessica K. Fitz Willoughby, Mass Communication, being hooded by Jane Brown. Shireen Mahfouz Hamid El Touke, Mass Communication, being hooded by Jane Brown. Jessica Gall Myrick, Mass Communication, being hooded by Sriram Kalyaraman. Roxanne Coach, Mass Communication, being hooded by Charles A. Tuggle. Elizabeth Mary McClure, Epidemiology, being hooded by Steve Meshnick. Dana Justine Hansen Baldoff, Information and Library Science, being hooded by Sandra Hughes Hossel. Catherine McLaurin Cleary, Neurobiology, being hooded by Asenil Belger. Julia Elizabeth Reger, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Rebecca C. Fry. Jeffrey Joseph Harden, Political Science, being hooded by Thomas M. Carsey. Lindsay Ward Lyles, City and Regional Planning, being hooded by Philip Burke. Tracy Hayden Lowe, City and Regional Planning, being hooded by Philip Burke. Tabitha S. Combs, City and Regional Planning, being hooded by Philip Burke. Won-Il Choi, Psychology, being hooded by Peter C. Gordon. Catherine A. Panozzo, Epidemiology, being hooded by M. Alan Brookhart. Anne Christine Bobrun, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by M. Alan Brookhart. Xiaosun Liu, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Steve Marin. Petro Borisov, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Steve Marin. Sean Thomas Hanlon, Education, being hooded by Jeffrey A. Green. Sarah Kathleen Ray, Epidemiology, being hooded by David Weber. Eric T. Lofgren, Epidemiology, being hooded by David Weber. Carol Jacqueline Shad Askew, Education, being hooded by Judith L. Meese. Margarita L. Best, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Catherine Marshall. Jacqueline Jordan, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Catherine Marshall. Sakiko Oyama, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Joseph B. Myers. Boyi Dai, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Bing Yu. Benjamin McMillan Gerger, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Darren Padua. Yi Lu, Computer Science, being hooded by Dr. Wei Wang. Jeremy Robert Wang, Computer Science, being hooded by Leonard McMillan. Cecilia D. Moore, History, being hooded by James Lelutis. Serdar Aldamat, Business Administration, being hooded by Christian Lundblad. Stephen W. Ho, Business Administration, being hooded by Christian Lundblad. Neri Romero, Education, being hooded by Linda Watson. Jessica Ruth Dykstra, Speech and Hearing Sciences, being hooded by Linda R. Watson. Lucia Ingrid Mendez, Speech and Hearing Sciences, being hooded by Betsy Craig. Betsy P. Humphreys, Education, being hooded by Rebecca New and Betsy Cray. Adam Holland, Education, being hooded by Rebecca New. Pingji Zhao, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by the Provost. Shun, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Aravind Asakan. What a talented group of graduates we have here today. We welcome you with open arms. Please be seated. Now, I want to acknowledge something a bit more abstract, a special bond that's formed between students and faculty at the graduate level. A big part of our students' success, and I'm sure they'd agree, is due to their faculty mentors. The faculty at Carolina takes their role as mentors very seriously, and it's this mentoring role that makes today's ceremony so special. Exceptional faculty mentors encourage graduate students to establish their own record of scholarly activity. They provide a supportive environment that brings forth the very best from their students. To honor this exceptional level of faculty commitment, the Graduate School presents an annual Faculty Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring. The number of nominations we receive from doctoral students and the content of those nominations was an affirmation of our faculty's dedication to graduate students and graduate education. To all of our faculty, I offer my heartfelt gratitude for the ways you mentor your graduate students. Your dedication to graduate education on this campus is absolutely remarkable. Please join me in applause for the mentors. The recipient of this year's Faculty Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring is Dr. Philip Burke. A member of the UNC faculty since 1995, Dr. Burke is a professor in the Department of City and Regional Planning. As Dr. Burke makes his way to the stage, I want to share with you some excerpts from his nominations. Dr. Burke received nominations from alumni and from current doctoral students. Each nomination was heartfelt, with comments such as the following. Throughout our doctoral studies, Dr. Burke exhibited an ideal mixture of high expectations and unrelenting standards of quality for our work, compassion and patience as we refined our thinking skills and habits in fits and starts, and genuine care and concern for our evolution into productive scholars capable of working independently and in collaborations. The nomination letters talk about his insightful comments on dissertation drafts, his letters written on behalf of a student's external fellowship application, his feedback on practice job talks and conference presentations, and much more. One nominator said, "I once overheard Phil tell a colleague that if your primary goal as a professor is not to help students succeed, then you're in the wrong job." Phil Burke is definitely in the right job. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Phil Burke on receiving the 2013 Faculty Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring.
Congratulations, Phil. Thanks for all you do.
Now, a final charge from the graduate school before you go. Graduates, you have been recognized today for your successful completion of doctoral studies, a process that all of you know takes years of commitment and self-discipline. Now, I charge you to take that commitment to excellence and go out into your community, whether here in North Carolina, across the state, across the United States, or across the oceans, and make your community a better place for its citizens. Lend your passion and knowledge to your community and watch it grow and prosper. I do want to mention you're all welcome to attend the main commencement ceremony tomorrow morning in Keynote Stadium at 9:30 a.m.
Congratulations once again to all of you. You are beginning a new chapter in your lives. While most of you are leaving Chapel Hill, we will always consider you a part of Carolina, even if you are in a galaxy far, far away. You leave behind a cohort of people who are proud of you, have deep faith in your abilities, and care about what happens to you. We know from experience that you will change the world. You arrived at this day through your own hard work and the support of your family and friends. And you were supported by North Carolinians through the investment of their tax dollars and by the many private donors who also believe in the importance of higher education. We know you will repay these investments many times over. Thank you all for your role in today's hooding ceremony, the doctoral degree candidates, your advisors, Dan Ariely, and all who are in attendance today. And a special thanks to Jeff Fuchs, director of the university bands, and the student musicians who came to play for you today, and to singer Adam Mitchell. Thank you all, and very best wishes to you. And now everyone please stand as Adam sings Hark the Sound.
Hark the sound of tar heel voices ringing clear and true, singing Carolina's praises, shouting NCU. Hail to the brightest star of all, clear its radiant shine. Carolina, priceless gem, receive all praise as thine. I'm a Tar Heel born, I'm a Tar Heel bred, and when I die, I'm a Tar Heel dead. So it's rah-rah, Carolina, line, rah-rah, Carolina, line, rah-rah, Carolina, line.